Okay, so it occurred to me afterwards it might be a good idea to make a summary video of the various different body movement exercises I've run through in the previous videos, but using the sledgehammer to highlight certain aspects of the movement, because it's a device that shows up any sort of weight that you carry when you do body movement stuff, really shows up flaws instantaneously. So for example, if I just lean to my right slightly, I can probably stand here for quite a long time without receiving a sufficient level of negative feedback from my body to do anything about it. But the moment I pick up the hammer and start to hold it, now I can feel a really strong sense of compression on my right side just above my pelvis. So it tells me instantly that there's something amiss in my body, and I can feel to shift that, and okay, now it's okay, now I'm back in balance. So just to run through the Taisabaki exercises we've been looking at, to start maybe with Toriofuni, the rowing exercise. If I hold the hammer out and do this movement, shifting from the back foot to the front foot, but in a straight line. So we talked about it as you can do it in a straight line back and forth, or in a loop. So I'm just doing it in a straight line now. And one of the things I mentioned was the sense of force running through the knee as you hit a stopping point. Well, I can do it empty-handed all day, really, and not feel anything particularly bad about that. But as soon as I take on board the hammer and do it a few movements, and I can start to feel this feels quite heavy going on my knee now. It feels like there's quite a lot of weight pushing into it each time. And the other place I feel it is in is it the rhomboids, the muscles between the spine and the shoulder blade, is that how you pronounce it? Every time the hammer stops, they have a kind of feeling going on. So just to demonstrate that side on now, I get this jarring feeling, and I can sense that it's quite hard on the body in some ways. So if I go back into putting a loop into that now, and you can hopefully see on the camera the head of the hammer is circling, I can feel that sense of pressure in the knee is alleviated. Okay, and the sense of strain in the back is alleviated. And where I start to feel strain after a while is in my forearm as it's taking the weight of the hammerhead. So if I start to dip my pelvis into this now, as I'm doing it, so I'm moving on a loop both horizontally and vertically, then that strain starts to alleviate because the hammer's being allowed to sink and it's being carried upwards on a wave of energy generated by my legs, and I can reverse the direction. So there's some strain in the body because I'm holding a sledgehammer, but it's minimized that strain in the body, and it just makes it really apparent instantly. Okay, so what else can we look at? The basic weight shifting exercise we did. If I hold the hammer in front of me, well, the exercise was just without the hammer. It was to stand, sink the pelvis slightly, extend the spine upwards, and shift weight from one foot to the other, as opposed to rocking like a pendulum. And to have a loop, so the weight is, when reaching the extremity of one foot, it's moving back over to the other, and so on in a kind of figure of 8 motion. Well, again, if I do this with a hammer, if I start just rocking, I can feel a lot of strain now down the side of my legs to hold me in place, okay? So as I start to shift my weight from foot to foot with the hammer, I can feel why it's necessary to have this loop, because any point, if I have a sticking point where the curve isn't smooth, it's going to drag me over. So I lose my footwork, and when I extend that then to stepping from one place to the other, if I'm wanting to move like with a certain speed, if I don't put that loop into it, I get dragged off, or I have to really tense, and I can feel tension going right into my abdominal muscles to stop the energy of the hammer taking me further. So it makes it really apparent if that loop, and you can see the loop in the hammerhead, hopefully. I'll make it big to exaggerate it. So I'm not doing that with my arms. That's a reflection of the movement my feet are making. So I can step rapidly off the spot and come to a stop without having any tension or an excessive tension to hold me in place. So the other one to move on to then would be the 10 can exercise we did. So the principle there again was as I turn, I'm generating a lot of energy that's going that way now, backwards. And again, I can normally get away with it just by, I might not notice that I'm tensing my muscles to disperse that energy. But as soon as I bring the hammer into it, okay, whoa, okay, if I let my body go loose, it carries me right off from where I want to be. Or, again, I have to use like a lot of tension each time to stop the hammerhead dragging me out of place. So what I can look to then in this is to turn and disperse. Turn and loop the hammerhead to disperse the energy each time. So now I don't feel this sort of sense of tightening up my muscles to stop my motion. And I can stop. I can make this turn and stop, and I can do it really rapidly and stop. But it's clear that I'm using motion. And if I don't use it at any point to stop motion, then I can really feel it instantly, the tension in my body that builds up. So to bring all that together then, what I should be able to do with the hammer is hold it in front of me and move rapidly in any direction, turning any way, any of the different Tai Sabaki movements without feeling tension or without being thrown off course, because I'm constantly putting loops in to disperse the energy.